Welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzon. Here's what we're tracking at this moment. That's why President Tinubu's call for suspension of nationwide protests. Organizers hit the streets in Lagos, Kaduna, and other locations in continuation of the End Bad Governance protest as exercise enters day 5. President Bola Tinubu asks protesters to suspend demonstration across the country and embrace dialogue as he reels out government's intervention plan to cushion the impact of hardship in a nationwide broadcast. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka, senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, and others fault President Tinubu's statewide broadcast, describe it as falling short of expectation. Let's kick off the tracking of the polity with the latest development on the End Bad Governance protest, where some protesters here in Lagos have returned to Ojota Convergence Point to continue their demonstration on day 5, barely 24 hours after President Tinubu's nationwide broadcast, where he had enjoined the protesters and organizers to suspend further demonstration and create room for dialogue. Security operatives camped the scene while a few protesters continued their action despite being chased away yesterday by some hoodlums. And the protesters were later, we understand, the CP of the state, CP Adegoke Fayode, he was at the, or is at the Gani Fayemi venue of the protest. You can see the protesters right there still making their own demands as far as this issue is concerned. Maybe we'll take a listen for a bit. As the youth took to the streets in their numbers, you can see them on your screen bearing flags and placards of various inscriptions. Some protesters can be seen marching along the Constitution Road down to the stadium roundabout in the state capital, while other groups are also sighted along the Ngwan Seriki Ali Akilo Road, demanding for the return of fuel subsidy and improved economic conditions. Well, those are not the only two places where protesters have converged. Even the nation's capital, Abuja, we understand that security presence is heavy around the MKO Abiola Stadium, where security forces have tear-gassed protesters at that particular venue to disperse them. So, across the country, Lagos, Kaduna, Abuja, on day 5, the protesters have set out because yesterday they had lamented and complained that despite the broadcast of President Bola Tinubu, did not meet their expectations. So let's now get to that statewide broadcast by the president, which came 4 days into this particular nationwide protest, characterized by mixed outcomes. He described or decried the violence unleashed by hoodlums and commiserated with the families of those who lost their loved ones. President Tinubu then appealed to the protesters to suspend the ongoing protest and instead dialogue with the federal government, besides highlighting some of the efforts of the government across sectors to cushion the impact of a twin economic policy. The president defended why fuel subsidy is no longer an option. The president went on to ask security operatives to continue to secure lives and property, insists that his administration will not tolerate anarchy, ethnic bigotry, and unconstitutional action.
Under the circumstances, I hereby enjoin protesters and the organizers to suspend any further protest and create room for dialogue, which I have always acceded to at the slightest opportunity. Nigeria requires all hands on deck and it us all, regardless of age, party, tribe, religion, or other divides, to work together, reshaping our destiny as a nation. To those who have taken undue advantage of this situation to threaten any section of this country, be warned. The law will catch up with you. There is no place for ethnic bigotry or such threats in the Nigeria we seek to build. Our democracy progresses when the constitutional rights of every Nigerian are respected and protected. Our law enforcement agencies should continue to ensure full protection of life and properties of innocent citizens in a responsible manner. My vision for our country is one of a just and prosperous nation where each person may enjoy the peace, freedom, and meaningful livelihood that only democratic good governance can provide. One that is open, transparent, and accountable to the Nigerian people.
Well, as expected, reactions have been trailing. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has reacted to the president's nationwide broadcast on Sunday. He describes it as lacking credibility and failing to address the issues such as pressing economic hardships, demand by protesters to downsize his cabinet and reduce the cost of governance. A statement signed by his media advisor, that's Mr. Paul Ibe, notes that the president's broadcast lacks substance and respect for the protesters' sentiment, leaving Nigerians with little faith in his reform agenda. The statement further urges the president and his team to own up to their failures over the past 14 months and abandon the absurd theory that the protests are orchestrated by the opposition. Well, that's not all that is coming from in terms of reaction. We also have a reaction from Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka. He says that the president's address failed to address the attacks on end bad governance protesters by security agencies. In a statement that reads in part, "My primary concern, quite predictably, is a continuing deterioration of the state's seizure of protest management, an area in which the presidential address fell conspicuously short. Such shortchanging of civic deserving, regrettably, goes to arm the security agencies or forces in the exercise of impunity and condemns the nation to a seemingly unbreakable cycle of resentment and reprisals. Let's live bullets as state response to civic protest that becomes the core issue. Even tear gas remains questionable in the most circumstances, certainly an abuse of the situation of clearly peaceful protests." End of quote. Professor Soyinka explains that the tragic response to the ongoing hunger marches in parts of the nation and for which notice was served constitutes a regression that takes the nation even further back than the deadly culmination of the watershed EndSARS protests. According to him, the nation's security forces cannot pretend to be unaware of alternative models for emulation, civilized advances in security intervention. And there's more as far as this is concerned as well. This time it's coming from senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, who has faulted the president's speech, describing it as falling short in addressing the key demand of the protesters, which is the reversal of the policy on the removal of fuel subsidy. The senior lawyer raises concern over the sincerity to combat the criminality of fuel subsidy scam. While congratulating the protesters for drawing their attention on politicians, Mr. Falana demanded the immediate and unconstitutional release of all protesters that were arrested and detained, saying they had not committed any criminal offense. He also condemned the repression of peaceful protesters while commiserating with all those who lost loved ones in the protest and asking government to set up commissions of inquiry to bring to justice those responsible for the reckless killings. And that forms the core of our conversation. I'm being joined on the program by the national chairman of the Young Progressives Congress, who joins us via Zoom from Port Harcourt, Bishop Amakri. Also being joined on the program by Mr. Sam Yohana, who is from the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much, Geoffrey. But Our party is called Young Progressive Party,
Young
not
Progressives,
Congress.
Young Progressives Party. I beg your pardon. Okay,
Well,
so let's get to
thank
it.
you.
Let me get your quick take, Bishop Makri, on this protest and the president's response.
Yeah, sorry, are you referring to me?
Yeah, I can hear you. If you can hear me, I needed your reaction to the protest and the president's response in his broadcast.
All right, thank you so much, Geoffrey. I think because of time, I know that the lunchtime program, you don't have enough time. I will just go to the bullet points. For me, the address actually did not meet up expectations. And the reason is because I do not know the reason why the president saying that what he had just broadcasted was what Nigerians wanted to hear. I'm not seeing an action plan. I'm not seeing the desire, to end this protest that young people and hungry people are on the street protesting for almost 4 days now, or getting to the 5th day. Maybe because the president is in the villa and everything is available for him. Cows are available, food are available. Sycophants will continue to bring food for him and his family, and including the ministers. What they enjoy while they are in government is the reason why they don't even have the feelings of what people have outside there. Otherwise, it's a simple logic that the president should have come out, would have taken this opportunity as the best opportunity for him, to write his name in gold, and Nigerians will continue to remember him. The same energy he used when he was being sworn in as the president, that he has taken away the subsidy, even when he did not even know what is on ground. There was no any measures, to put in place to the cushion the hardship that were going on, that we are faced with today. He hurriedly, announced the removal of subsidy without knowing the consequences of it. So the same way I was expecting that the president would have said, look, the price, the pump price, you can imagine people buying fuel at 800 and something naira today in Nigeria, Geoffrey, and you expect that people will be happy? My regret today is that I am beginning to hear when some people are even saying that Buhari's time is better than Tinubu. It's actually a shameful thing that we're coming out from one problem and we're into another problem. And there's a man who told us that I have the capacity to lead this country. I have the capacity to take this country to El Dorado. The wife herself told us, my husband and I, we have the money. We are not coming for Nigerian money. We are coming to build an egalitarian society. Is this the kind of nation that Tinubu wants to build for us? For God's sake. He didn't even address the issue at all. I was expecting to hear him saying, fuel should be reversed to so amount of money. That's what the ordinary people on the street want to hear. Not that thing he came out and was telling people, for God's sake. And you expect that the people will just go back home because the president has come out on television and has spoken. So let's go back. He has not addressed the issues, for God's sake. And I don't know who are the people advising the president there.
All right, Mr. Makri, let me take the question to Mr. Johanna from Plaque. Mr. Johanna, I don't know what your characterization of this particular protest is. Maybe we'll begin from there. I understand you are in Kano, and there was a lot of incidents in Kano that necessitated some action by the government. In Kaduna, I beg your pardon. So, Mr. Johanna, I will need your first impression of what you're making of this situation. The protesters are saying, look, you may have given a broadcast as president with all sense of respect, but you didn't address our demands, so we stick to our guns.
Mr. Jeff, the president addressed the nation yesterday at about 7 a.m. and that was long expected because I was in a program on TV a couple of days ago, and in my final roundup, I said I plead with the president to come out and address the nation since the father of the nation. Because at that time, that was day 3, the protest was taking a different dimension, which was not good for the country. And the ugly incident in Kanu, Sokoto, Yobe, and other states in the north was really, really disappointing and catastrophic. You can imagine in Kanu, where a digital hub center that was built for the youth was vandalized completely. I was told that there was a particular library that was also vandalized, and the unfortunate thing is that when the youth went there and vandalized the place, they didn't take a single book from there. So you can imagine how the whole thing is playing out. Well, this morning in Kaduna, we woke up as if everything was normal, because Saturday and Sunday yesterday was a little bit calmed. Only for us, an hour and a half ago, to start hearing all over town that the youth have flooded the street, carrying all manner of objects, carrying the flag of Russian Federation, which is very, very bad for us. We all know the implication of that. That's a treasonable offense when you bring a flag of another country into a sovereignty nation. So the president's address to the nation, like I said, was long overdue as of when he made that broadcast. He had addressed, he had made presentation step by step. But what the protesters are saying that he did not address their grievances. This is my opinion now. For them to be demanding that fuel subsidy should be returned, well, they have a legitimate demand there, but we all know what happened during the subsidy regime, where, as I speak to you now, there's a former member of House of Reps that is languishing in jail now because of the role he played in the fuel subsidy scam between 2012 and 2014, I guess.
All right, Mr. Ayona, if I'm a button, Mr. Ayona, my apologies, I'm a button. God, we don't have so much time, and I have both of you. I want to take as much. So let me piggyback on some of the things you're talking about. They don't just have about fuel subsidy. There are different charters. Some is 15, some is 10. Some are in the short term, some are in the long term, and all of that. So the arguments some people are making, which I want you to speak to before I go to Mr. Makri, is rather than save us this quote unquote, we're saving more money or we're getting more money because we're not paying subsidy and we now have more allocation. And people are saying that the governors are not doing enough to make that money get to the people in terms of developmental strides. Why don't you use that money and go and pay the subsidy that affects all of us at the end of the day? Is that argument, does it make sense to you?
Well, Jeffrey, price of oil will come down. I'm very sure by the time our local refineries start producing, and Dangote start producing, even if our local refineries, as the government-owned refinery produce at 30–50% installed capacity, Dangote now decide to produce, I'm sure competition will bring down the price of this thing. This morning I was reading the price of diesel has even gone down, price of aviation fuel has gone down. So it's a gradual process. And let me tell you something. This government had brought a lot of intervention between 2023 when they came on board and now. But you see, the information managers of the president need to do more.
Mr. Ayona,
they're not communicating effectively.
Noted, Mr. Ayona. I'll take it back to you. Look, if you want to talk about the promises of bringing back refinery to work, it has not worked. We're hoping it will work. Our prayer is that it will work. Mele Kyari, 2019, July, took over and promised that the 4 refineries will come upstream. And it was a very cheerful moment. 4 years after, 5 years down, we have not seen anyone working. So that looks like far-fetched. We hope it comes upstream. But the intervention, people are saying, if people feel the intervention, they will not be on the street. If you step out of where you are, you go out, there's high food prices at the end of the day. This is the reality Nigerians are feeling, and they feel that the policy of the government brought them here. But let me take it to Mr. Makri. Mr. Makri, in speaking to some of the issues, let me read one of the things the president said. I am especially pained by the loss of lives in Borno, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, and other states, the destruction of public facilities in some states, and the wanton looting of supermarkets and shops, contrary to the promise of protest organizers that the protests will be peaceful across the country. What do you make of the statement where the president seemed to be saying they promise peaceful protests and things? Is he blaming the protesters for the chaos? What exactly do you make of that statement?
Whatever whether he's blaming the protesters or not, I think first he should start by blaming himself, right? Because this scenario would have been averted if, there are people, if he proactively, engage people before even this protest. Look, this is a protest that the protesters, notified the government or even the various agencies for almost 3 weeks before they embarked on this protest. What I would have expected at that time is that the president would have begun to engage or reach out to the 774 local governments that we have today in Nigeria that are youth across those 774 local governments that he would have engaged. I think the thing that this president must do at the moment is to begin to think about a national conversation that people will assemble and discuss important issues that bother this country. Rather than relying on these aristocrats every time you call them to Abuja, they will just come and collect their own share of the national cake without addressing the issue. I just heard you mentioning a name now in the oil industry, one Melekari. For God's sake, you yourself just said it. For over 4 years, the promises of whether our refineries are going to come on stream. Today, we don't have any result like that. And yet that kind of person is still, what the protesters are even missing in their charter of demand is that they should start many people who are in government today, particularly they should start from even this Melekari and many others like them that have failed this country. Rather than amassing wealth for themselves, they have failed this country. That Melekari, I do not even know the reason why the president is keeping that man there. On what grounds? What are the yardsticks that Melekari should still be there as the GMD of NNPCL? So, my brother, my own take on this matter is that the president must actually step up and be on top of his game. Number one, why is he even thinking of adding more ministries at this point that we're talking about economic crisis? What are you doing?
All right, Bishop Amakri, quite a lot we have to discuss, but the luxury of time is what we don't have. So, but let's take this, maybe let's take what is developing right now in Kano. So you can see this visual coming in from Kano. These are people that are back on the street, converging at different locations. At about 200 of them, more people are joining in this march, waving the Russian flag. These were the things that people were raising concern. You can see young people, underage young people, teenagers, and all of that. This is what is going on in Kano at the moment. Those are the pictures or visuals we're getting in from Kano State. I remember there were issues around Kano in terms of looting and all of that. So that's one of the big concerns perhaps of the president for calling for some of the things he called for as far as this is concerned. All right. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, I'll wrap up with my guest on the program. Join us again. All right, these are visuals coming in from Kaduna State. We understand that some of these protesters have started looting government private buildings around Napa roundabout. They take to the street to demand an end to bad governance and economic hardship. Many of them were seen cutting away generating set, roofing sheets, office chairs, door burglaries, and other items. Meanwhile, security forces have stopped the protest from moving beyond the Napa roundabout. So you're seeing pictures and videos coming in from Kaduna. That is some of the, I don't know what to call them, that are looting people's property or government property in Kaduna State in the name of trying to protest. So those are some of the elements giving the protests of the people who are genuinely protesting and asking for better governance a bad name. So looting in Kaduna and hoisting or carrying flags of other nationalities in Kano State. So gentlemen, just maybe 30 seconds each before we wind down. Bishop Amakri, let me start with Mr. Yohana. Mr. Yohana, 30 seconds, just your last thought before we go.
They can't breathe.
That this protest will be infiltrated by criminal elements. And this is showing clearly now. Because how do you go and say you are protesting peacefully and the next thing is vandalizing, looting government properties and private business? I mean, that is not a protest. This one has become criminality now. So my advice now is that the security agents, as you know, they've always been in Kaduna, they've always intervened timely. They should please take charge and make sure that this thing doesn't go beyond the level it is at the moment. Because honestly, we know that people are going through excruciating pains and government should do more. Because even palliative government said they've been given out. I'm telling you, the implementation process is faulty. It doesn't trickle down.
All right, Mr. Yohana. Mr. Amakri, whose fault is this? The protesters who things got out of hand or the security agency's failure to curb this? Whose challenge is this? In 30 seconds.
Yeah, you see, the overwhelming, you know, we are a country with a very large population. Let's be sincere to ourselves. The security agencies might not be able to curtail this crowd because if they want to use force, it will amount to cause of, you know, dead bodies, and we don't want such scenario. I think that the problem actually was ab initio. The government took it for granted and did not address many issues. If not, it would have been averted. At the time they got this notice that there was going to be a protest, I expected a president that would have put in place a structure, a mechanism to bring aggrieved people on the table and discuss important issues. And let me also tell you, I think the way forward. Sorry.
Mr. Amakri, we're totally out of time. We're totally, my sincere apologies, we're totally out of time. Bishop Amakri, the national chairman of the Young Progressive Party, as well as Sam Yohana, Policy and Legal Advocacy Center. Gentlemen, thank you. Wish we had more time. Thank you for coming on the program. And that's it on the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Zongo.